Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to AutoHub. Sorry for the technical difficulties that we're having. A few great books to review, and these names Jeff and I were talking about, I didn't make up these names. These are actual author names. So Shep Hyken, The Amazing Revolution, Uncommon Service by Francis Free, and The Nordstrom Way, which I highly recommend. If you're not familiar with Nordstrom, it's a great book on customer experience. We're doing Rockin the Service Drive today with myself and Jeff Polo. Obviously, we're looking for sponsorship opportunities. If anyone's interested, they can reach out to myself or Jeff. Disclaimer, everything that's said on the show is not our opinion. It's the opinion of the speakers. We're not responsible in any way with what they say. That's really their opinion. Go ahead, Jeff.
Again, still experiencing a little bit of technical difficulties. Things were a little slow, but welcome everybody. Today we have a very enjoyable group of people, as always, but from very diverse parts of the area. We have Kate Colacelli. Hopefully, Kate, I've said that correct. I was the Senior Director of Marketing for Dealer FX, who knows a little bit about the service driveway. We have our friend Christine Mitchell, but car lady, who's certainly needs no introduction, a former technician, now a customer experience person and a recruiter extraordinaire. Dave Foy from the sprawling metropolis in Massachusetts. Dave, I'm sorry I forgot the name, even though I've heard it many a time. And founder and president and chief person of Fixed Ops Mastermind. And of course, another good friend of ours, Amanda Troop, from the founder and CEO of Ladies Car Sense. So as you know, we're extremely overly equal opportunity here. Our ladies take us over all the time. So welcome everybody and thanks for being here.
So the AutoHub show, thanks Jeff. The AutoHub show is for the guests, not the host. It's your show. Please mute or unmute yourself. You can also click raise your hand in the chat box and we'll deal with it. There's a wealth of knowledge and experience on the call, so let's share ideas and respect each other's time. All AutoHub participants have agreed to be open to sharing ideas and are okay with others using those ideas. Second here. Relax, no one is trying to sell you anything today. AutoHub is an open discussion with a focus on improving business. We value everyone's input, speak up and bring value. Don't be afraid to brainstorm ideas and ask questions. Be respectful of everyone's time. After all, we are busy professionals. Please do your best to stay on topic on the call. Don't forget to challenge our speakers and help them bring value on the show. We are now booking vendor speak sessions for October. Maybe, Jeff, you can talk a little bit about last week's session.
Well, you know something, we continue to have great sessions, and in fact, you know, many of the people on the call today are former vendor speak people, and you know, and we've had some terrific thing. For those of you who don't know, vendor speak is we'll talk a little bit more about it at the end of the show. This is where you actually have a chance to sell, and that's why the previous slide said where nobody's trying to sell you anything today. But on Fridays is their day to sell, and it gives them their own show and lets us connect to everybody. So it's many Fridays, although this Friday, I think it's month end.
Yeah.
So we're just going to let it go there because everybody wants to make the best of things of it.
Fantastic. So without further ado, we're going to get into the show. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. So we're going to be starting with Jeff's introduction.
Say that again, Ian.
You're introducing Kate, or I'm introducing Kate.
You're introducing Kate.
Sorry, my mistake.
I always give him heck because he doesn't.
So Kate Colacelli she works for Dealer FX. Coincidentally, I used to work for Dealer FX. I'm very familiar with the company and the CEO and the advanced team there. Kate's in charge of marketing for the entire company. So initially, based on my understanding, there was a marketing for Dealer FX and a marketing for dealers. Now it's sort of combined. And Kate maybe can speak a little bit to her role, but more importantly, Dealer FX a little bit as to the history of the company and where you're going moving forward.
Yeah, great, thank you. Yeah, I hate to date myself, but I think this is now my 20th year in the auto business. So this has been my career. I've worked helping dealers across North America on the advertising side, on both on the sales side and on service. But with Dealer FX for the last almost 13 years. We're focused on the service side of the business. We are one of the leaders in service lane technology, so helping dealers really digitize the entire service experience, everything from a consumer booking their service appointment online, all the way through the check-in process, MPI, and then all the way through to payments at the end of their service visit. So we really help dealers with that entire spectrum with dealers across Canada and the US.
So I have a question for you. Where are dealers missing opportunities to generate revenue from fixed ops? And how can they get some quick and easy wins in the fixed ops department?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, especially right now, coming out of the major impact of COVID. They're looking to really retain as much revenue as they can, retain their customers as much as they can. One of the things that we see a lot with our dealer body is really declined service work, not following up on declined service work, not having a process in place to make sure that they're going back after those customers and trying to get them to come back in. We see some dealers really effective with that if they have a BDC and they can make those follow-up calls right away to try to bring those customers back. If they have a good CRM system, they can even set up automated emails to make sure that those customers receive that soft touch saying, we know you came in, this was recommended, maybe you didn't have enough time to complete it, maybe it wasn't in your budget, let's see what we can do for you and bring you back in. I had one quick slide I was just going to share with you on that, just to show you some of the impact. Let me know if you can see that okay.
Yep.
You bet.
I'll just try to make it a little bit bigger, but this is actually one of our dealers. I just wanted to show an example. This is a Chevy dealership, 3 months of data that we're showing here. And you can see they had, over $427,000 worth of recommendations. And what was actually sold out of that was, only 30%.
Wow.
There's a huge gap there between, what they're actually being able to recommend and actually bring back to have completed. So huge area of opportunity there. It can be a really quick win if they put in some of those processes in place to just automate and have a system to follow up on customers and get them back in the door.
So many dealers struggle with bringing back lost customers. What are the best dealers doing in terms of marketing to bring these customers back, or possibly to sell this obviously huge opportunity in terms of service that they're missing right now?
Yeah, again, it's a great area of opportunity if they can put a process in place. Some of the best dealers that we see bringing back lost customers are obviously not waiting until they're lost. So, we don't want to wait a year. We want to start touching customers between, that 6 to 9 month mark. We're making sure that they're coming back on that routine schedule or getting to them when you think they might be in danger of deflecting. Some of the ways you can go about that, there's always email, making sure that we're touching our customers on a regular basis through email. We can use social as another touch point. Some dealers are still using direct mail, and that's not always a bad thing. It's obviously not quite as cost effective, but the more ways that you can touch customers in different channels, the better opportunity you have to win them back. And you can incentivize customers in different ways. You can change the incentives based on how long it's been since they've come into your dealership. So a customer that may be in that 6 to 9 month mark, you may not need to give away a considerable discount to win them back, but a customer that hasn't been back in maybe the 12 to 15, you may need to do more to bring those customers back. Obviously, in addition to just doing incentives, it's also a great idea to just resell the value that your dealership can bring to the customer. So the things that they may not necessarily know about, what are all the conveniences that you offer? Why should they be coming back? Make sure that they understand that message and build that relationship, because that's what's going to help win them back.
So in the COVID period, obviously a lot of dealers, at least in the early days, based on obviously the launch of AutoHub show, we're relying a little bit more on service than they had traditionally. Obviously, in times when things slow down, they tend to rely more on service. Did you see any uptick in service in terms of reselling, like more success in this area during COVID?
Yeah, I think, you know what, we saw, I think across a lot of dealers, you know, there was obviously a bit of a downturn in the initial time when COVID first hit. We saw that across the board. But what we've seen is actually a lot of dealers have had record months coming out of COVID. And it's actually quite remarkable on both the sales side and now even on service. They're seeing, you know, customers still had to service their vehicles. They just had to know how to go about it. And I think the dealers that were most successful were the ones that communicated properly with their customers, let them know what the processes were going to be when they come in for service, made sure that they reconfirmed, you know, all their safety precautions. The ones that did a really good job of that saw their customers continue to come in. And I think, you know, the ones that have really excelled in this period are the ones that took things like text messaging, or looking at ways where they could, you know, check in mobily or move all their appointments to online scheduling. You know, those were the kind of the forward thinking dealers who said, you know what, we need to go about our business different. We need to automate a lot of what we're doing because we may have reduced staff right now. We may need to, you know, look at ways where we can have that physical and social distancing. And then, you know, how do we then, you know, keep the customers coming back and feeling safe to want to keep returning and servicing their vehicles. But, you know, the dealers that put a lot of those processes in place and, you know, put their customers' minds at ease, they've had some really great success over the last few months.
So we have a question for the panel from Dave, actually. Do you suggest offering discounts on the initial decline service call?
That's a good question. I think that's up to the dealership. I think they don't have to do an initial discount. I think if you're communicating properly to the customers, because a lot of times it's not necessarily a budget issue. It could be a time factor. You know, they've come in for service, they've come in for an oil change, or they've come for, you know, they're getting a cabin air filter replaced. And then all of a sudden they hear, oh, well, your brakes are gone and you're going to need this and you're going to need this. And they're thinking, wow, I'm going to have to be sitting here for 3 more hours. I got to go pick up my kids. I got to go to soccer practice. You know, I don't have time for this today. And maybe that's the reason why they're not coming back. So, you know, there's certain systems and certain tracking that a dealership could be doing to make sure that they actually qualify why the customers declined the service, and then use that as their trigger or their as part of their follow-up to the customer.
Thanks for that. So Jeff, I think we have to start moving forward. We're getting a little tardy there, so go ahead.
You betcha. We apologize to John and Barry. We'll try to get to the questions later. But now comes our great friend, Christine Mitchell. And Christine, could you just tell everybody quickly a little bit about yourself and et cetera?
Thanks, Jeff. Hi, everybody. I'm Christine Mitchell, and I'm the Car Lady. I own a company called the Car Lady Canada, and we host At Your Service, Know Your Car Night events at dealerships across Canada. So we offer a program that brings customers back to the dealership after their initial delivery to bridge the gap between sales and service. And obviously during COVID times, we're not able to accomplish that with bringing people indoors together. So now we've pivoted and we have a program, a virtual program, At Your Service, where we go through all of the details of the service department with customers after delivery.
Terrific. So, you know, you started as a tech, so you've got this great background in the shop, and now you're coming, you know, you're certain to become a guru for service departments. So what's your vision of the future? What's your vision of the future for customer interactions with the service department?
Well, I wanted to ease Kate's mind that actually I've been in the car business now for 35 years. So I think I got the championship title on that. I started in the business when I was 16. So you do the math.
27.
27, yeah. The future of customer service in the service department is going to depend on what they do next, because it's been 6 months since the COVID hit. And while it's been devastating, a lot of dealerships have continued to sell cars and continue to make money by doing things virtually, which has been fantastic. But they're going to have to make an investment now in retention and marketing. Now, those kinds of budgets certainly got slashed when the COVID first came into play. Programs like the car clinics got cut because, again, couldn't safely bring people together. And programs for marketing and things like that got cut, which I see now because now that I'm working on the other side in the recruiting side, there's a lot of people in the marketing industry looking for positions. The future, though, of service and the service advisor in the drive-through is still going to be in person. I don't think there's any substitute for an actual in-person visit walk around. I know there is a lot of companies that offer key services where you can pick the keys up, and I think those are all great things, but long term, I think the future of the business is getting people back into the store and getting the advisors doing the walk around with them. The advisor has 3 roles, right, at a dealership. I was thinking about this yesterday and discussing with my technician husband. 3 roles. First of all, they're customer service advocate, right? They're the first face that you see when you come into the store for service. Number 2, they're the communication or liaison with the technician. And 3, they're the busiest salesperson in the whole building. That's a fact, right? And I think if we go back to basics with a few things, such as greetings, making sure the BDC is on point with what an appointment really is, because I think there's a lot of people unsure about that. I think that you'll see the in-person part of the service department stay as intact as it always has, because people will bring their cars in and they want to speak to someone. They want to speak to someone. Yeah.
So that's a very interesting segue. I always get the word segue in every show. But you know, I've always been a big believer in the walk around in the service drive. But do you think dealerships as a group, all dealerships, really get it on how they're supposed to be treating customers in the service drive?
Yeah, that's a great question. A wise man once told me, we always overteach because we underlearn and overforget. And I think now is the time to review those basic steps. Again, greeting, hello. Even if you're busy as an advisor, just to greet the customer, the next line should be, how can I help you? And not, did you have an appointment? Right, if you can. But I think the dealerships do get it. I think they really do. And I think that they're working as hard as they can to help their teams every day. And from the technical side, as a technician, the walk around that you mentioned earlier, Jeff, is vital. Because as a tech, I can tell you, we want to fix your car the first time, every time. We don't want the be back. We want them to fix the car the first time, every time. And if the advisor could just ask more questions, that would go a long way to getting those numbers in, where Kate obviously is seeing them at every day, and continuing that great relationship with the customer. Because earlier Kate talked about time, right? Everybody's time is at a premium. Getting the car repaired first time, diagnosing it properly first time would go a long way in saving a lot of time.
Yeah,
but I think the dealerships get it. I do, absolutely do.
Well, I'm glad, because I spent a long time, and I've been in the business a little bit longer than you. I'm 30 years old. And interestingly enough, in a lot of my observations, ladies tend to be roughly 75% of the people bringing cars into service. Mm-hmm. Probably because men will just lay down and get all sorts of cool stuff sold to them. I'm kidding. But do you feel the service drives have become much more female friendly?
Absolutely, Jeff. As we said in our last panel, when we did the women and automotive panel on this AutoHub show a few weeks ago, we talked a lot about like speaks to like. And I mentioned the point that if you open the doors and you can get more women to work there, women want to see other women in the workplace. And I think that translates as well when a woman brings her car in for service. She wants to be heard, understood, and empathized with, right? And educated, frankly, everybody. But this is not a female-friendly thing. This is an everybody thing. I think all customers want those 3 factors. So I do feel that the dealerships and the culture of certain dealerships has been very cognizant of the way that women are treated and helped and educated and serviced within their dealerships. I truly believe that.
That's great. So do you think that with all of this and the things we're talking about, you kind of mentioned a minute ago that there's all these companies selling all these great things. So do you think, I think I know the answer already, and everybody does, that the role of the service advisor is actually going to stay up there, even though there's all these digital solutions and video walk around things? Yes, I know where somebody here's got one of those and everything else. So
yeah. Well, Amanda certainly has a role to play, right, with her video programs. I know Amanda personally, and I know that she has a role to play as far as getting customers to make great decisions about the repair once that is in place, if I'm understanding that correctly. But also the initial greeting, though, with the service to the customer in the dealership maintains the same. So when you're in the dealership and when you're bringing the vehicle in for service, I think it starts with the BDC about being very clear what an appointment is. Because there's been so many times that customers come in and they think that an appointment means your car is going from the drive-through to the shop. It's really a check-in time, isn't it? It's a check-in time with the advisor. So when you have your appointment, what you're really getting is a time to speak with the advisor, to do the walk around, to complete the paperwork in a timely manner, and answer all the questions. The appointment, again, is a check-in time. Then the car will make its way into the shop based on when the customer is coming back to the vehicle at the end of the day. So as to answer your question about how we interact with customers, I still maintain it's going to be the same. The service department has saved the dealers during COVID. And now's the time to get on the stick, because you've been delivering cars for 6 months, keys to curb. It's more important than ever to reach out to those service customers and make sure you make that connection to get them back to your store.
Yeah, well, that actually might be a very good point if the numbers start to go up again, the people that are listening to this. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And obviously hang around. And Ian, we will go to our guest from the lower 48. Please.
Dave. So I've known Dave on LinkedIn for I don't know how long, quite a while. He does lots of posting, very active, and obviously very versed in the service side of the house. Dave, maybe you can tell us a little bit about how you got into what you do now and what your background is.
Yeah, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version because I've been in this business since 1987. I also started as a tech, but I was not a very good tech. So they kindly asked me to not do that anymore, and I became a service advisor and continued my career from there, which has worked out okay. So that's all right. And I've worked my way up from there to where I am now, which is a service director and running the Fixed Ops Mastermind program. So there's your Cliff Notes.
Fantastic. What do you feel has changed during COVID in the service drives in terms of customer experience and expectations, in your opinion? I mean, as I talk to retailers, a lot of them say customers are a little hard to predict, like with their mood. Are you finding that? Yeah.
Patients are definitely a little thinner with customers, although there is actually a little bit more patience when it comes to parts ordering processes. They're a little more understanding when you can't get parts as quickly as you could before. So there's a positive and negative to everything. So yes, their patients are thin for some things, but they also have a little more patience with other sides of the business. The other thing is, I think this time showed the industry what the customer really values, which is their time. They really don't care about coming to your dealership and drinking a $12 latte for free, or having a nail salon in there, or a massage parlor, or whatever else, some of the crazy things that dealers have put in there. They don't care about that. They care about their time, and they want their time back.
Oh, interesting. So do you feel that that's impacted dealers trying to tighten it up in terms of delivering services in a more timely manner?
Yeah, well, I think what this showed dealers is for a lot of dealers, they couldn't have customers waiting in their showrooms, and so they had to do business differently. Whereas they could have appeased a process that took too long with things like free coffee and snacks, and now they had to actually tighten their processes up and pay attention to what they should have been paying attention to all the time, which is what the customer actually wanted.
Fantastic. In terms of training in the drive in 2020, what has changed to help services and sales adapt? Like, what do you think is going to change in the training side so that in 2020 and beyond?
Yes. So I think for dealerships who have realized that this is a customer-centric business, and that for fixed ops departments who have understood retention for a very long time, I don't think anything needs to change, but because you're already training that the customer is number one, and when you take care of the customer, they will take care of you. For those who have not gone by that motto, then that is what they need to change. They need to focus on that customer and make that customer the center hub of the dealership, if you will, and all the other departments run off of that. Because if those customers go somewhere else and do not come back, then it really doesn't matter what you're training, because you'll have nobody to use that training on.
So to that point, after COVID has passed, do you think we're going to get back to where we were, or do you think it's going to be completely different?
So I don't think it'll be completely different. But I just had an article in Fixed Ops magazine that was called "The Next Normal." I don't believe there's ever a normal. We are constantly changing and evolving, and rather than changing with the times, you should be changing all the time. And if you're always looking for what's coming, there's always going to be another issue, right? It may not be as big as COVID, but there will always be an issue. You've got electric cars coming down the road, which are going to change things. Self-driving vehicles are going to change things. There's just a plethora of other things that are going to continue to change this service drive appearance. And if you're always looking for that and always trying to adjust little bits at a time and looking at your business every day, then you don't need to worry about the big normal or the new normal, if you will, because there is no new. It's just the next.
Right. So how do you see, technology, be it kiosks or tablets or other technology, how do you see that impacting? Do you see that as a help as we move through this, or?
So as far as kiosks go, I think they obviously still have a long way to go before they can be used effectively. But I see the kiosks as a way for the advisor to buy back some of their time. So the advisor, we have been notorious in this business of throwing more and more and more on an advisor, and then expecting higher and higher production numbers from them. And one of the things that COVID showed, as traffic in the drive slowed down, the service advisor numbers all went up. And I saw this across the country. And it's a light bulb moment for some people to say, oh, wow, an advisor shouldn't be doing 8 billion tasks a day, but because you can't be productive if you are multitasking constantly. And that's how I see the kiosks is as a benefit, is to be able to buy the advisors some time back. As Christine said, the walk around is extremely important. I think you can still do that with even having a kiosk, because it does not have to control the whole write-up process. But the walk around itself is also changing and becoming simply something to build rapport with that customer. And if you have a kiosk involved, you need a little bit more of the rapport building.
Right. So I had a question here. Multitasking is not productive. Slow down and go faster. Do you agree with that? I
absolutely agree with that. I actually just posted on LinkedIn this morning about multitasking, because it doesn't help you. It does. You can argue with me all day long that if you've got 3 things going, that you're getting 3 more things done during your day. But if you actually slow down and focus on that one project or one thing that you're doing, you will get that done quicker and more accurately than if you try to do those 3 things. And it's the same thing for an advisor. If they can concentrate on that one customer rather than having to concentrate on 3 customers, they will treat that customer better, get better CSI, and have better numbers at the end of the month.
So you feel that then we're overwhelming the staff at a lot of dealers. That's part of the biggest problem that we're running into. We're just overwhelming people and they can't handle it.
Absolutely. Especially service advisors. Service advisor, I think, is the hardest job in the dealership. You are stuck as an advisor between everybody. You have sales coming at you, customers coming at you, us managers and directors coming at you, parts people and technicians. You've got everybody that is against you as you're sitting at your desk or podium, wherever you happen to live.
Nobody's happy with you.
Nobody likes you.
Not a lot of love for the service.
Definitely not.
Well, thanks for that.
I think that also goes back to the point, right, about making sure that the appointments, to Dave's point, making sure the appointments are completely understood what an appointment is, right? That you're not, and then giving the advisor a chance just to say, hi, I'll be with you in a minute, or I'll be right with you, or how can I help you? It really diffuses the situation too, right? Because if you come into the dealership and the advisor goes, did you have an appointment? It sort of puts things in a negative tone sort of already, right?
Yeah,
So
it's adversarial.
Yeah,
It's
it's
adversarial right from the start.
right from the start.
Yeah, Christine, we just switched over to I'll call it a closed drive, where we would book appointments for the specific advisor with a specific customer, and then that advisor owns that customer through the life of the customer experience.
Good call.
So Jeff, I guess we got to move on. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Actually, I have to make one final comment. We're always getting on the advisors because they're not super cheerful and happy when the customer comes in. And meanwhile, all we do is rag on them. So we'll move on to Amanda Troop, again, another friend of the show. And she is, as we said, the CEO of Lady Car Sense, but like she's just like Christine, just a dynamo ball of fire. And Amanda, just tell us, say hello.
Hi.
So just anything you need to share with everybody before we start asking you some questions?
Perfect. Well, like Kate and Christine, I started very early in my life cycle in the automotive industry when I was 15. So 17 years now. And I started in the shop working on vehicles for 6 of those years. And then I went to college, graduated from Georgian with the automotive marketing diploma. And then that's when I started Ladies Car Sense in my second year of college. And it's been 11 years now running that. And I have been a service advisor, assistant service manager, ran an aftermarket shop for a year. I've been doing some consulting for the past couple of years for a video system, an automotive sales team. And so lots of training in the sales and service departments. And I definitely was excited to be asked to be on this call today because I find service drive-throughs are a great thing to have. I've worked in dealerships where I've been a service advisor in a drive-through, I've been a service advisor out of a drive-through, and I've been a service advisor that we didn't have a drive-through. So I think that it is very important that dealerships that do have a drive-through use it as that. I see so many dealerships that use one lane for tire storage and, you know, another lane for a bumper that they just got in, or they have the cart of like the ordered parts that came overnight from the OEM, and they're not utilizing it to put customers in cars there. Also, I find with the service drive-thrus, there's lots of new technology that's going into them. So we have those big screens that when you're driving in, you're like, oh, there's my name and there's my appointment, and that's who I'm seeing as my service advisor. That's really great, so that they're acknowledged literally as soon as they're driving in before anybody contacts them, whether it be, you know, a car jockey or the service advisor themselves. But I also noticed with all this technology, we're also putting more technology in the drive-through. So those alignment machines that you hook up and they'll give you, you know, your alignment on the spot, or the brake testing machines. I've seen it all in the drive-through. And one of the things that's great and lovely, I had one dealership that literally has a drive-on hoist, and they hook up an OBD reader and they check your battery and they do a brake test and then they do the alignment. That all takes time. And as much as we want the advisor to have that proper and personal check-in time with the client, hooking their vehicle up and testing their battery and checking their tire pressure and, you know, checking their lights and checking their washer fluid while you're walking around with them, that's all theoretically lovely. And that's how a lot of OEMs train their service advisors to, that's a proper walk around. Realistically, that's not going to happen. It should be where the advisor goes in and, you know, if they have a drive-through and their vehicle's not being hooked up to something, they should come out and check the mileage, number one, because customers never remember what their kilometers are. I never have my kilometers up. I always have like my temperature on my setting. But I think going out, doing a quick walk around, just pointing out, checking tire tread very quickly, pointing out any like little scratches or dents. That's a good upsell as well that a lot of people forget about. But just going through and checking and seeing like, oh, there's a car seat in the back. Oh, how old's your little one? And creating that relationship. You can do that in essentially under 5 minutes. So while you're going through, oh, I heard, so we have your appointment here and you have a noise and I kind of noticed a little uneven wear on your tires. So I would recommend to, do an alignment inspection today, or, oh, I noticed that you're hearing some noise while braking and you have a whole bunch of, business stuff in the back of the trunk and stuff like this, and just try and create that relationship and that common ground. But I think that a lot of dealers miss that mark because they're filling their drive-through with all this technology and they're holding up cars. So now you're like 4 back in and customers can't even go into the drive-through to meet with the advisor. And especially if it's raining or if there's any weather, service advisors are not likely to go outside that drive-through to do that proper walk around. I know, again, working at a dealership without a drive-through, I had 2 advisors that were there with me they were at the dealership for about 15 years each. And a new customer would come in and unaware of the process, and they would say, okay, so what are your kilometers? And they're like, I don't know. Okay, can you go back and get that for me? Like I was like appalled. I was like, oh my goodness, but we have this sheet we're supposed to go and do. And then like, yeah, so I think that dealerships that are lucky enough to have a service drive-through, utilize it as that. All the extra equipment and stuff, keep that in the shop because that's what the shop is there for, because it does bog down the check-in time and it also bogs down the flow of your service drive-through area. And then also service advisors, I 100% get they are the busiest person in the dealership. They have 16 tabs open on their computer screen all at once, and as Christine mentioned, it does start from when the appointment is made and training your BDC properly. I notice a lot of BDC departments will hire call center people. They're not training them on how, put them behind an advisor for a day so they understand what happens when you book a check engine light and you put a waiter on there. Or like you're double booking people like every 10 minutes. That's not going to work out when they're all, tire season's coming up. So all those customers are not going to get done and they don't understand. Well, I said to the lady I talked to on the phone about my appointment that I'm going to wait for my check engine light oil change and my tire swap. I thought she said it was an hour because that's what comes up on the system. So I think it all comes down to, number one, from the top when they call in, when they book that appointment, having the staff that take the appointment, have them trained and trained properly. And then when the customer comes in, to definitely utilize the drive-through and create that relationship, because we all, on the sales side, sales representatives are always taught, okay, so you need to, find common ground and start a relationship, but service advisors aren't taught that. They're taught how to manage DMS systems and CRM systems and how to sell work. Well, a lot of times, especially in the service cycles, the customer is paying a lot of money and needs to trust that, in fact, what service advisors are saying is true. So that relationship needs to start at the beginning. And I think, Dave, the system that you were just talking about and having one service advisor own that customer for its life cycle is so important. It's like, the sales representative selling you a car, they're not going to show you a car, take you on a road test, and then hand you off to someone else to finish the deal. And that's what people don't understand with service advisors. You should see the same person time and time again unless requested otherwise. But that relationship is so important, and just as important to maintain the customer for life or the vehicle life cycle.
So question for you, and you actually mentioned this a couple of times, and the fact that everybody on the call today does not live in Southern California in the Sun Belt. What does a dealer do especially come winter when they don't have a service drive-through?
I personally, again, working in a dealership that did not have a drive-through, it was not fun. It's cold, but these are things that need to be done. If a customer comes in and you're checking them in and you ask for their mileage and they're like, I don't know, or even if they're like, oh, 56,125, great. You should always go into the vehicle, start the vehicle, make sure that there's no other service lights on. In the winter, I always double check wiper blades because that's very, very important. And that's a huge safety issue that people don't really realize, and they kind of forget until it does snow and then they can't see. So just kind of touching points like that. And then also, again, when I'm getting in their car and I see that they have a Tim Hortons cup, or I see, you know, the baby seat in the back, or I see a laptop in an office set up in the passenger seat, that's things that I can mention when I go back into the client and say, oh, hey, I noticed you liked your coffee double. Me too. Like, can't start my mornings without it. And again, just that camaraderie, because I know, being a customer now, unfortunately not working in a dealership, when I go into a dealership, I do not look forward to it. When I go in to get my car service, I get it, and I see the head down and the avoiding eye contact, or they pick up a phone suddenly and then just walk away from their desk, and it's terrible. So one of the things that I do with a lot of the consulting is training that and keeping that human feel in the automotive industry. Like you just showed that video about, you know, going into a fitting room or going into a store where they're selling stuff. You expect to have some level of service. And I think that with all the technology and the instant gratification, customers' expectations are going up, but they've also plummeted because of the experience that they have received as well. So I think that it is very important to definitely get out there and make that relationship happen.
Man, we got two questions. One, I guess, is put to the panel. Where do you put notes in for the next time they come in, the DMS or the CRM in your?
It depends what system you're using. Like a lot of the times we would have our DMS system and then a CRM system that would be a push and pull. So theoretically, I love CRM systems, but I don't like how things don't line up. So I would always put it in DMS system, because CRM systems change over the years, where DMS, they normally stick with the same system through and through. So I would always add notes in there under the customer comments, obviously, where it's not going to be printed on the work order, because and especially when you're talking, like I was working in a very busy GM store, I was writing anywhere from 20 to 30 work orders a day. So even if I'm physically looking at the person and I've talked to them, 6 hours later, when they're coming to pick up their car, I'm like, hi, how can I help you? Forgetting, you know, everything. So I personally always have, I'm a pen and paper kind of gal, and I have my customer notes to myself as well. So like we would have a lot of the time printed work orders. I would photocopy them and I would write notes right on my photocopied hard copy, so that I would remember, you know, even what they look like. Dave coming in with a red cap and, you know, has the white CTS and this and that. But I think it's very important. And then also, when you're going and you're seeing your appointments for the next day, clicking on that, if you're good at making notes, and if the other advisors are making notes, or if you're taking over a client from them for the day, it's just great to have.
And another question for the panel, maybe this is a little more geared towards Kate and possibly everyone else, but as we see more digitized service appointments, whether they're booked online, booked through an app, booked through a website, is that really impacting how people prepare, and do they actually need to be there? What do you think?
Yeah, I think, again, you know, I think I'm hearing a really common theme throughout the show here today is better communication to customers. Set expectations, let them know about their appointment, let them know what to expect when they arrive on the service drive. You know, I think as long as you're doing all of that, whether it's a digital appointment, where the customer is booking online, there may be checking in from a mobile device or a kiosk and dropping their vehicle. As long as the communication is clear, I think there's still an opportunity to build a rapport and kind of have that customer satisfaction. It's obviously not going to be the same as a face-to-face relationship that you're going to build over time with your advisor, but I think that you can still have a very pleasant service experience if the communication is right throughout the process.
From a technician's point of view, again, to Kate's point, from a technician's point of view, our goal is to fix the car the first time, every time. And if we can't go on that test drive with the customer to find out any squeaks, leaks, or rattles, we've got to be able to sometimes hear what they hear in order to fix the vehicle properly. In a digital world, that's going to make it more difficult. So it will become paramount, that point of communication, asking the proper questions to pinpoint so that the technician can go exactly to diagnose and treat the condition for the customer and save them that precious time.
Dave, do you have any thoughts?
Yes, I mean, as far as customers booking online and things, I think you have to have a process to make sure somebody is reviewing those appointments before the customer either drops off through a night drop or a kiosk or in person. We go through our appointments 3 days ahead, so every appointment is reviewed 3 times before they get there. So if there are other things that you need, information that you need, you can find those and reach back out to the customer to get more information before they show up at the service drive.
Right.
I think
We're
that's
getting a little tight on time, just so you know, but go ahead, Amanda.
No, I was just going to say that's very important because I have, when I was a service advisor and online booking was just starting to become a thing, I know there was a lot of bugs to work out from what's online that the customer can choose from. That I remember customers, picking, I need an oil change, and then they would write a comment and, oh, check engine lights on, suspension needs to be inspected, and you're just like, oh, interesting. So that Saturday oil change is now full inspection and diagnosis. That, yeah, to ensure that number one, your online is very straightforward, that the customer can't sneak themselves in or sneak something kind of in and under the nose. And then also ensuring calling them and saying, walking them through what they put in is definitely paramount in that communication.
Thanks very much. Well, we're out of time, unfortunately, but thanks everyone for being on the show, and thanks everyone for attending. Is there any final questions or thoughts, Jeff?
I think this was a great show. I thank everybody for being there. Dave and Kate, thank you for being our newbies. And your input was tremendous. And of course, Christine and Amanda, we can always count on that. And thank you all for attending. It was a great time. And of course, as I always say to our loyal people, the Barrys, the Johns, the Tiagos, the Christians, and welcome to Hyundai. I don't know who you are, but thank you. And of course, Ariel. So thank you all for coming.
Yeah, and Russ, man, thanks for attending as well. The recording will be up on the website and broadcast shortly to the guests. We also do short clips, so I'll be sharing those with you as well. If there's any questions, let me know. And thanks again. Have yourself a great week.
Thanks
Very much.
Thanks very much. Drive careful, everybody.
Take care.